Hello students, for the purposes of this we are doing module 4 lesson 14th of our math class. We are working on multiplying unit fractions by a non-unit fraction. What does that look like? 1/3 times 2/3. I will be showing you some ways of figuring this out using an area model, and hopefully eventually you guys will figure out the standard way of doing it. Let me show you one of our first problems. One half times 2/3, or 1/2 of 2/3, is the same as 1/2 times 2/3. Of meaning to multiply. How do we do this? Or how does this work with an area model? First, draw our line. We get half. Shade it. I'm not going to shade it completely, that way you guys can see that it isn't. That's half. This is 2/3. We're shading in the 2/3, of course. And the ones that connect is what we get as an answer, which is that one, which equals 2/6. How do we get 2/6? Well, if we count every single box, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have a total of 6. So the ones that cross was 2/6. So how does this look written out all the way through? This is 1/2 times 2/3 equals 2/6. That's how this is written out, like that, and that's how it looks. This is our area model, and this is how we get an answer from an area model. We're not focusing so much on simplifying it right now, but if we were to simplify it, we'd figure out a number that divides evenly into the top and the bottom number, and if we were doing that, we'd figure out that 2 divides on top and 2 divides on the bottom. So 2 divided by 2 would equal 1. 6 divided by 2 would equal 3. So technically our answer could also be 1/3. Here we're finding the similarities. 1/3, if I multiply 1/3 times 2, I get 2/6. So that's why I'm not focusing so much on worrying so much about simplifying. As long as we get to this answer right here, we should be good. That's our main number one goal, to get there. I'm going to continue with another problem, and maybe a little bit bigger number. 1/3 of 3/15. And the reason I use of is a lot of times in our math assessments, you'll have of, or they'll have multiplying, and they want you to get an understanding that this of is exactly the same as multiplying. So how do we get that? Well, we do our area model. Oops, it would help out if I do a better area model. And we get 1/3. You shade in that 1/3. You can see this is 1/3. 3/15. How in the world are we going to do 3/15? Well, I'm sorry. I just made a mistake. It's not 3/15, it's 3/5. Another way of learning from our mistakes. The teacher always makes mistakes too. Just to help you understand that it's okay to make a mistake or a failure at this time. I'm sorry, it was 3/5, not 3/15. So if 3/5, I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5. I'm gonna shade in. Three out of 5. Kind of gonna be hard to see it. Here are the ones that are in dark, shaded. The ones in purple are the ones that are shaded. So what's 1/3 out of 3/5? Anybody? Anybody? If it'd be a perfect time if we wanted to pause and have you guys think about it. So now that you have time to think about it and figure it out, 1/3 of 3/5. So we have our area model, and we broke it all up into all these little boxes now. So if we were to count them completely, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 15. This is where kids kind of sometimes get confused. We're not counting. We're counting the whole total, which is correct. This is how it would look. 1/3 times 3/5. We're counting the whole total, so we're getting 15 as our denominator. So we're trying to figure out our numerator. Our numerator is the 3/5, the ones that are shaded. So if we count them, these 3 out of the 1/3 are shaded, so we get 3/15. So 1/3 times 3/5 is 3/15. If we wanted to simplify that, of course, 3/15. You find a number that divides by the top and the bottom one, the same number. You can't just pick any number you want. You would get 3 divided by 3. And your answer would be 1/5. But I'm not so much worried about finding this answer. I'm so much worried about finding this because we've already went over finding numbers that are similar. And eventually, as you go through this process, you'll continue to figure it out and eventually figure it out that, well, this is exactly the same as this because all I have to do is divide by 3 or multiply by 3, so that's how you get the numbers bigger or smaller as we go on. So eventually, through the process in this, you get to, let me put these side by side. For those students who are probably looking at this, wondering, okay, why am I doing this area model? It's eventually you'll get to the point where you yourself as a student will figure out, you know what we're doing is we're getting this number, the numerators, and multiplying, and you get 3. Again, I had a 15 there, but it's not a 15, it's a 5. So my bad with these mistakes. Kind of difficult when you're doing a video. You tend to overthink things. But like I was saying, eventually you're going to get to the point of seeing that the numerators, you're multiplying the numerators, the numbers on top, which are the numerators. So basically you're doing 1 times 3 and you get 3. 1 times 3 times 5, and you get 15. And your answer is 3/15, which is the same as this over here. This is a great visual for you guys to see. Eventually, once you get past that visual and you get an understanding, you'll be able to get to here. And because of being able to understand that you know how to simplify, eventually you'll be able to do this and you'll get to here. So this is our lesson on Module 4, Lesson 14, multiplying unit fractions by non-unit fractions.